Hello, kia ora, I'm Philip Duncan. It's Monday, the 17th of November. Thank you for joining me as we take a look at New Zealand's weather across the coming week and the upcoming weekend. Let's kick off with the satellite imagery today. Plenty of cloud to the west of us and to the east of us. High pressure is actually out to the east here. That is helping to fuel more of a northerly flow or a subtropical flow that's going to be coming through over the next couple of days. So we've got some wet weather to the northeast, wet weather to the northwest, and out over Australia, the next big wintry snap coming in for them with windy weather, drop in temperatures, and some heavy squally showers as well. So we're on the warmer side of things to the start of this week. Here is the air pressure map explaining what I just said. The high just east of the Chatham Islands, and it goes right up into the tropical area. So that pulls down that airflow right into the country. So we're going to feel the temperatures going up after what was a bit of a cooler weekend in some areas. Now we're going to get that warmer northerly. Australia has the colder southerly or southwesterly, and the interesting weather is usually in between those two airflows out in the middle of the Tasman Sea as we go into tonight. So it's a northerly wind tonight, which means temperatures are going to be up tonight and across the next few days, because look at this placement on Tuesday. Big high pressure zone stretching right up north of Rarotonga, moving past Tonga itself and down over parts of New Zealand, mostly into the North Island. If you don't have that in the South Island, you've still got northwesterlies, and you track the origins of that airflow, and it's coming out of the northern Tasman Sea, even the Coral Sea area. So mild weather pushing through across New Zealand. Now we do have rain with heavy falls moving into the west coast. That's that interesting weather I just told you about between the warmer airflows and the cooler ones coming out of Tasmania. So there could be some heavy falls with thunderstorms on the west coast on Tuesday, but in the top of the North Island, it's more of a humid sort of north to northeasterly, a bit cloudy, a bit windy, a few showers, and you never know, there could be a heavy shower in there as well, but maybe also some drizzly kind of patches in the mix also. As we go to Wednesday, this shows 24 hours of rainfall from lunchtime Tuesday to lunchtime Wednesday. So pretty heavy rain that's clearing away from the Coromandel northern parts of the country and into Bay of Plenty. The colour shading for Bay of Plenty, that's mostly from about Te Puke eastwards. You're seeing over 100 millimetres, maybe even up to 150. So that's quite a lot of rain falling in just a 24-hour period. So slow moving rain coming out of the Tasman, coming out of the subtropics, moving through across Tuesday and into Wednesday as well. And that's the snapshot at lunchtime as that heavy rain continues in the northeast corner of the North Island. Rain in the west coast is also around. That's starting to ease back as we go through Wednesday. High pressure just off the coastline there. So the winds aren't too strong in most places, maybe a little brisk in the usual sort of Cook Strait area. And on Thursday, not a great deal of change as far as the wind is concerned, although that wet weather has mostly disappeared. But we've still got this warm airflow, subtropical in some areas, even into the South Island, that warmer airflow coming through. So take a look at your Thursday temperatures. In fact, your temperatures across this week are looking above normal, but on Thursday it's a pretty warm day around New Zealand because we don't have as much cloud cover. The sun's out a lot more, and keep up to date with those burn times. They're very short now. The UV index, which we've got on the Rural Weather website, and it's also in the Weather Watch app, we're seeing very high extreme sorts of levels now, which means you can get sunburned in a very short amount of time outdoors. So keep that in mind, especially as we go through the week and sunnier weather starts to move on in. By the weekend, so high pressure is on either side of the country. You've got one big high northeast of New Zealand, another one out here over Tasmania to the west of the South Island. Another couple of areas of wet weather stuck between those two systems. So we may see some northeasterly winds and showers affecting the very top of the country, mostly Northland. I wouldn't 100% lock that in just yet. As you can see, we're right on the outer edges of some heavier thunderstorms and downpours that are further to the north. And then the other end of the country, a very weak cold front. The polar boundary just coming up and nudging Stewart Island. There is a cooler airflow coming through, a bit of wet weather on the west coast, mostly moving out of Fiordland into southwestland, and a few showers will spill over into southland and western parts of Otago. Probably not very much for coastal Otago, but you could still get a shower. So the polar boundary is nearby. Temperatures drop a wee bit on Friday in the lower South Island, but around the North Island, not so much a drop in temperatures really, with those warm airflows coming out of the subtropical region. And it stays that way into Saturday as well. A small trough north of New Zealand, like a pothole in the sky, trying to form a low pressure zone. That's what we're seeing here on the back of the high pressure zone that's still out to the east. So that anticyclone with its anticyclonic wind keeps that northeasterly alive at the top of the country, and other areas in the eastern North Island could have a nor'wester coming through from that. Not very strong by the looks of it. High pressure mostly over the South Island, that smothers that cold front. So you get a bit of cloud and some patchy rain or showers, but it won't be very much by the looks of it there. And by Sunday, we've got two sets of airflows going on once more, true spring style. High pressure to the east, dragging down subtropical wind for the eastern side of the North Island. And the next high coming out of southern parts or south of Australia, well south of Australia, dredging that polar boundary back up again. So that might actually come into Southland and Otago by the time we reach Sunday night, although being nearly a week away from the time I recorded this, there's still going to be some movement on that one. But this is a cooler airflow coming in, not just for the lower part of the country, but a general southerly flow working its way northwards after the subtropical winds. And this is a good example of what high pressure systems do. When they leave New Zealand, they drag down the warm weather. When they come into New Zealand, especially in this sort of southern placement, dredges up the southerly because of the anticyclonic winds going around each of those high pressure zones. So there is a temperature drop. We may see a few showers with thunderstorms into the North Island, squeezed between those two airflows, but between now and then, still a few more things to work out. That is all from me for today. Back again tomorrow, Tuesday, with our next New Zealand update. I'll see you then.